All right, guys, how we doing? Happy Monday. Sam here with you. It's June 10th here, and polling's in. Yeah, tried to focus more on some of the alts today, but the majors, well, alt majors, end up taking the poll here. So first up is Ethereum to the dollar. This is the 4-hour on Bitfinex. Now it's an interesting chart. So I'm still operating on the premise that we are still seeking the third. So from the low, the 1, the 2 is in. We're still seeking the third here, and I have a target up here at 327. Put in the 4 and still alive to go up for the 5. Now this is a pretty juicy chart for an Elliottician. It's challenging without being such that you can't get a count in here. There are a few spots where it requires some interpretation. We have some non-traditional, particularly here in this section down here, which affects our count, right? This section in here is a little dicey. So on the assumption here that we've gone 1, 2 via the ABC, it's a little tricky here, but you can work through the 3s and the 5s best you can here. So this looks like we've got an A, a B, and then we end up with a truncated C. We don't get the C coming below the A. It's not unheard of. Ideally, you got to work through this it's a little diagonal, just barely overlaps here in the 4. I think that sets up better for the ABC here, and then coming out of that, we get a clear impulse into a 1, 2. Now here's the 4 that comes down, doesn't overlap that 1. So, why does this matter here as we head over to the hard right edge? Because it's affecting how we're counting things here. So on the assumption that this is 1, 2, well, we get a clear 5 here. It's not far enough. Well, let me show this to you. So if we look here, let me reset. So if this is the 1, let's do it this way. So if this is the 1 here, and this is the 2 here, okay, so we are not far enough here, assuming, right, correctly identified. This isn't far enough to be our third. So what does that leave for us, given what we can see that follows? So that implies we go into the 1, 2 of the next degree, and then carrying forward, yet again, another 1, 2. So we've got this series of 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Looks like we may have completed the third at this degree. So this 1, 2, all the subdivision is there. Gives me a 3 here. Now you'll note we have yet to make the median line. Right, so is that a bit of a tell? Now I am using the lower pivot here because of this. I think we do have an expanded B wave here to give us the 2. So I'm using the 1 high. Now, all right, so it's always a judgment call. Move it over, and we've made it easily. Now, I think this is what the market is responding to, and this fits in rather nicely with this target up here. So we're still seeking the median line. So this, you can make the case here that this corner pocket here is still unrealized. Yep, we've still not gotten it. So that 80% that's still alive and kicking, right? We could hit it all the way up here. So coming from, what did we do? What was this low down here? About 103 and a target up here at 127. Hell of a corner pocket, right? So we'll see, right? If that, so this is right there. We've just hit the 38. It's right there. Now, can we get there that fast? No, that's a question mark, right? So we have the leading structural component of a set of median lines. So we can look at that and go, well, shit, it's going to make it there by, what do we got, June 17th? Can we get there in a week? Well, yeah, of course, crypto sure could. We could easily get there in a week, but if we're going to take longer, we start pushing out here, that this potentially now, if we're going to go to some of these upper extremes, right, that's not out of the realm of possibility by any means. But this right at the moment looks like a reasonable target. So as you can see, I'm just pulling from the proposed 2 low. One more reason why identifying the 2 down here is important, because that's what we're pulling from, right? So the 2 through the 3. So we've come right to the 38. I'll pull this off here. So we're 1, 2, 3 looks like it's in. 4 looks like a reasonable chance as we pivot right here at the 38, right where we'd anticipate it, right where we had this former structure. Now, take note here, much like Bitcoin, we have the same issue here. So if I look at visible range here, right, just including from the pivot low, again, you'll notice there's a big vulnerability down here between the 38 and the 618. where we just have that same gap. There's just a vacuum of structure there. There's just absolutely no support because this move, or you can always see why, right? This move went so fast. So there's no support. Right now we're starting to build some here, but we are still very vulnerable should we break down. So the next area of support, well, you can just see it right here, would be this structure, but would also be our 618, which would be, a lot of people will tell you that's a last stand for a wave 4. Any deeper than that, when you're stretching the bounds of possibility here that we're going to actually get up and get to that target. Right, so then you might be looking at it from a different pivot. So if that were to start to break down, then I'd go back one. Then looking at that. All right, so then if we were to come down here and do this 50, then you start reevaluating the internal count here. But right now, there's no reason to assume we're not going there. Right, so if you're bullish of Ethereum, there's a reasonable, well, shit, you could be buying it right now. Now, let's go down. I'm on the 4 hour. Let's go to the 1 hour and see how we look on this correction. So coming down from it, from the proposed 3 here. So let me get this off of here. All right, so yet again, I've got, see, this is not uncharacteristic in crypto. So I get a truncated C yet again. And so is this a double top? Technically, this is the higher pivot, so you got to dig this. Oh, shit. This could, let's see. We might have to, oh, boy, that's. So you got to go A, B into the C here, and then 1, 2. Oh, boy, that's ugly because this really looks like a 3, doesn't it? But, coming out of that, we get a 5, so you're kind of stuck with, well, nothing is absolutely perfect here. Even if, look for more complexity in this. This 5 down's pretty solid. This is a little bit of a, your best case here. So you got to go A, B, C into the B. Well, now the C is, because it looks like you go A, B, C again. So I was just looking at that saying, is this possibly a WXY? But this 5 is I don't think we can break that into anything else. So then you've got to go A, B, C into the B. This is your problem spot because really this looks like A, B, C again. So what do you do with it, right? So you start looking for, is there something else? Why do we stop here? Right? So what's happening? Is this algo driven? So from the swing low to the swing high. All right, well, here's the break of the 65. So this algo gets stopped. So what's the algo going to do next? Well, they're going to look for the next 50 from the dominant pivot. So then we look here, breaks again. So we're breaking on both sides. So this is not algo driven. It's just a lack of direction. So we end up with this zone here. So we get the support and we get the resistance up here. We're going to include all this. So this is corrective. Now it does look like I can get 5 coming down here. So I'm just wondering if we've got to go put the B over here. We may have to do that. So we'd end up with the, so again, it's another truncation. So you'd be here going A, B, C, which I don't love, but the 5 down here, so we've got to finish it with a 5. If this is going to be our C, we got to, if you can say, why do I fucking care? Well, because if you're going to stick with the Elliott rule set, we got to finish this with a 5. Right, so yeah, I understand, right? So I get that thinking of like, oh, hell, man, why do I care? What's happening over here? That's what I care about. Well, I understand that thinking, guys, but you got to work through the detail because it's going to affect what you're going to pull from next. So working through that, even though I don't love that I've got to end here. So look what I've got to do. I've got to have a truncation here. So if this is A, B, C, I've got to truncate the C here. If it's coming down this way, I've got A truncated C, and then I'm truncating the C again. Now, part of the reason I'm definitely influenced by 2017, where in the bull market there were so many truncated C's, it was overwhelming. It was just consistent. In fact, it was abnormal to not see the truncated C. So is this a sign of, is it impatience in the market? People don't want to wait. Well, here we're at support. We're buying it. Is it whales in here? Of course, we're never going to know. Right? So we just make do with the best that we've got to work with here. It's Elliott Wave is it's not perfect. It's unbelievably resilient in that we can there's always a count that we can ultimately make work, right? There's spots where it's a little nothing is absolutely perfect, but it's incredibly resilient as to how it can accommodate all of this price action given the rule set. Now, there's a lot of complexity in the rule set. I get you, man. Shit, I forget rules all the time. My senseis correct me more than you guys would believe, because they're just really good. And, I think I took my certification 10 years ago. They took it, some of them 10 weeks ago. They just are getting it. So Sensei Tudum just got his level 2 certification. It's not been more than a couple of months. So these guys, it's fresh, man. They are on it. So they catch me in little issues all the time. And I guess to some degree that my point is, it's not a requirement that you're a master Elliottian. As I will often tell you, where it's most useful is when it's so obvious you can't miss it, right? So here's an example, okay? This move here, we don't have to argue about that being a 5-wave, right? It's just clear as a bell, right? It's clear 5-wave impulsive structure. So we can look at that. Now back here, we got to kind of do our best guesstimate as to what's there. We get a range, right? Low of the range, high of the range. We tested twice, we break the range. So you just kind of got to work with what you've got there. But what we can be definitive about is this 5. No dispute there. No, see, this is often the joke, right? 10 Elliottians are going to get 10 wave counts. Well, they probably would through this entire count, but not here. Right? There's no dispute amongst Elliottians what's happened there, right? We got a clear impulse. Now, coming down here. So here's a good example, and you see this in crypto a lot. Well, you get a free fall. So really, you're going to go down to the 2-minute and dig 5 out of there? I don't worry about that as much. This is something impulsive, right? It's just a collapse. And then I get a little 3-wave. Right? Now, can I get the 5 to finish this correction? Well, yeah, actually I can. Now, you look here and you go, really, man? Really, you got 5 big clear 5 swings in that? Well, yeah, but you probably take it down to the 5-minute. Yeah, I can see it, right? We don't have to go down to that to dig every little pivot out. But what I definitely can see is that from this B, I can get a clear 5 here. Right? That's again not likely to get a lot of dispute. So if I guess I'm trying to make the point here is if this is unclear and you're like digging through all the shit, what is that? Is that ABC? Is that, oh shit, do I have to get another 5 into that C? Well, yeah, technically you would. Does it really matter? Right? At this point over here, does this subdivision of that 5 really affect us over here? Now, purists might say, yeah, hell yeah. I'm going to go with, it's not going to change my analysis here that this is the 3rd of this degree and we've started a correction. So I can look at this and say, okay, I'm correcting something. Now, what am I correcting? So that's always the question, right? So if we're correcting something, what are we correcting? So the first thing you look at always is the last dominant swing, right? So where's the last pivot before we go, right? Do I have 5 there? So from this low, what I'm proposing here is that from this pivot, this proposed 2 here, which by the way was also, well, we had this it's the same problem. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's a little shaky, but this 5 here, not so shaky. We have the corrective piece of it here, but from this low, I've got a clear 5 getting me up. So what is this? Right? So am I correcting that? Well, so how do we ascertain that? Right? Before we assume that it's correcting something larger, let's look at the smaller, the last swing. All right, so here's the 38, here's the 50. Are we correcting this? Because you think, as an algorithm is looking at that, doesn't care what the subdivision is, could not possibly care less. Swing low, swing high, where's the 50? That's all they're doing. That's all they're doing. It's simpler than you imagine. All right, so are they going to come down here to the 50 or is this going to hold it? So then you look here and you go, well, that doesn't make sense because if we're not to the 50, I don't have an algorithm on the buy side. Well, maybe not. I got another swing here. Could they be using that? Remember, guys, we don't know. We're always making an educated guess, right? Well, now there are times where it's obvious, but we're always kind of checking these pivots going, could they have used that, right? So then you look here and you go, wait a minute. Well, if they're using that, so why would they be using that, right? This is the dominant, or you make the case that, so here we get a correction. So here's why I go there. So if we look here to here, Okay, it's right to the 50. So the reason this is a candidate for something an algorithm could have used is because this is a technical pivot. Right? Do you see this little swing here? So from this to this, right there, straight algo play, reaction. Right, so let me zoom in here. So it looks insignificant, but it's not. Right? So here's the 50. Here's the first algo target. Look at the reaction. How do we know it's an algo? Right? The reaction, not the 50, the reaction at the target. All right, so this is a contender for something that they could be using. Right, again, it's always our best guesstimate, right? We don't know what the hell they've got written into that code, but we can identify it when we see it. So if this holds, odds are very high that that pivot was used. So they went, here's the 50, got to target. We go to the next 50. All right, so here we're to and through the 50, got a little low volume node here. So is there something else there that? So you might look at that and go, okay, well, so there, you could make a case here that this is what's being corrected here. Well, so that, is that enough for you? Because, you look at it and you're like, oh, okay, well, yeah, but really, the dominant pivot is back here. So maybe there's more to go. Yeah. So in high, well, you can, well, maybe it'd have been that one, maybe that one, right? So there's always a, what about that one, Sam? What about, no, now it's broken to 65. That's it. Well, so I'm gonna build the case for it. So if you're at that point where you're like, fuck, man, I don't know what they use. How am I supposed to know? Well, look for more evidence. So here we have the proposed. So look at this. Come here. I don't want you. Get off of there. All right. So from this, I get an A, I get a B, and then I've got a clear 5 coming down. Yeah, the 2's a little deep. But if this is the 5, if this is my 4 here and I'm going up, there ought to be something technical within that. So let's zoom in here a little bit. All right, so we're suspect of this. Noting here this low volume node here that we were just spared going deeper here. So then I'm looking at this and go, okay, well, I got a little trend line here. That may be interesting. So again, just standard ops, right? So I take you back to same way, same thing every time. From the pivot of the 2 through the pivot of the 3. What do I get there? Right, that's to the tick, guys. So here's 50 to the tick, to the algo target, to the tick. Look at the reaction, right? So how do we know it's an algorithm? Right? It's not this. It's the reaction at that target. So you look there and you go, why does it go through the 50? I thought they'd start buying there. Well, we know certainly it can go through the 50, right? They'll defend down here. But you're wondering, why does it go through the 50? Well, there's your answer, right? This algorithm, right here that's solid here, has that target. They start buying as they take profit on that. Look, right? Up we go, right? So now you come back to, right? Here was the hot box. So where we started, what are we correcting? At the moment, it would appear we're correcting this pivot. That's what the algorithm used. It looks like. It looks like that's what they used last. So where's that target? Right up here. That's 316. So does that fit? So, well, if we're coming here, it looks like there's a reasonable case that maybe the 1 is going in of this degree. So let's clean some of this up here. Okay, so we've got a candidate for a technical pivot right here. Okay, so now we kind of work backwards and go, okay, well, if this is an ABC that's done, and we don't know for sure that it's done, but it's a contender, right? So it's a contender to be finished with the correction. I got an A, I got a B, and I got a C, and I've got a technical pivot. All right, so what would we be anticipating next? Well, we want to see a motive come out of here, right? So if this is the 4, we're looking for the 1 wave of the 5th. Well, we need some motive wave, right? We don't need an impulse. We just need a motive. So I'm on the 2 hour. Let's go to the 30-minute. Well, what do we got there so far? Let me open this up even more. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 looks like it's there. It looks like you can make a case for this as a 1, 2, 3, let's check that. 3, 4, maybe that's in on the 30-minute. So the 2's a little deep. So now we're back to, really, Sam, you're telling me that within this there's 5 there? Well, I'm on a 30-minute. Do we need to go down to the 1 minute? I don't. I go, all right, it's a contender, maybe. Okay, so let's, if it's going to hold, there's a 1, there's a 2. Now, do I have a real 3 there? Maybe not. Well, let's just look. See, so again, you just go to your tool set. Okay, if that's a 1 and that's a 2, right? Where am I with my 3? Well, where's the high probability zone for a 3? Right between the 1618 and the 175. Where do we go? So that helps you go, okay, that could be the 3. Right? It's right where I'd be looking for it. Now, does that look like an impulse? Well, somewhere in here you're going to have to get your 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But I'm not too worried about it because I see that going right where I'm looking for it. So then we think, okay, well, that's by the book. How about the 2 to the 4? All right, so if this is my 2 down here and this is my 3 right here, well, I don't overlap the 1. I come right where I'm looking for it, 38. Just blow right through first target. Now, if we're going to keep going, maybe we have to reevaluate. Maybe we're going to get an extension here in the 5. And this gets relabeled. So it could be the 3 ends up here, right? We don't, at this point, it looks like I've got a reasonable contender here for the 5 to be in. So this was something. So I'm retracing something here. So I would just carry this forward saying, okay, well, what is that reacting to? So is it here? Is it this pivot? Right, 50 to the tick. So, right, algorithm doesn't care how I'm labeling that. I could not care less, right? So what do we care? That's all that's after. So if we go up there and get that, well, then that we have to take that as our 5. Does this stay as the 3? Or are we pushing up here? It's too soon to say. So it's a bit ugly, but at the moment it's technically teed up to be an impulse. Now this could fall over here. This could be a little 1, 2, 3. It'd be a push for a B wave. It's high for a B wave, but it looks like it wants to keep going here. So I kind of, it's almost like it's like a placeholder. Okay, so could be, yeah, that could be. This could be the B, but if this is going to keep going, I'm just going to wait and get a little more structure, even down to the 15. See, it's hard to see this as an impulse, right? So if this is our 2, it's a bit of a stretch. You got to get the 1, 2 in this bar. So I don't like to go below the 15. So what could be happening here? Well, if this is going to go to a new high, then this is some sort of a diagonal finishing the 5th. So the 4 would push up here. Now you're looking, come here. Now you're looking more like this, then the 3 probably up here. You may be reconsidering the whole thing. You might say, oh, maybe this is more like a diagonal. All right, we're going to have something along these lines. All right, maybe we're going to end up with a diagonal here, and we're just going to have a shallow 2, and this is an A, B, C into a 3. No, pardon me. So the 4 would need to come. If that's the case, that maybe we're here. Maybe this is the 1. Right, we don't know. So we just don't have enough here yet to really go, okay, I can say with a high degree of confidence that the 1, 2 is in. So how would that look? 2, if this is the 3, we're still to the 50. Get that right there. So we're still at the 50 with the potential for this to be finishing. So let me change that degree so it would make sense. So let's take this to the micro. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4. If this has another push, then we're still with an impulse. So I'm working the 1 now here as then to the 2 through the 3. We're right to the 50. If that's going to go, what are we looking for? So this would look, this would look like this. All right, now if we get that, now even though it's a little ugly, I can make a stronger case here if I'm going to finish. So if I can get this to finish, right? So if we can get the 1, 2, 3, 4, we're going to get the kick in the 5, we could. Or it's going to be this way, or we're going to get a diagonal here. We've got an A, B, C, right, before we go to something higher. This is the big push here, so that would be more likely to be the 3 if this is going to hold. So this, I would say, would be critical support, right? If this starts to weaken and we get a little bit of a sell-off here, then you're back to, oh, well, maybe that's an ABC, right? It's just too soon to really know what we've got here. This is a contender, but until this finishes and we get some sense of what we have here, is this truly going to be a motive? If we get a good motive here, then it gets much easier because then we go, oh, and again, I need a pivot where I start coming down. I need some sense that a top is, God damn it, TradingView, come here. Some sense that that's starting to happen there. Then I'm looking for the completion. Now I've got a completed motive, I should say, off of the low. If I get my 5 up here and I get something to start, then it's much easier for me to draw this up and go, okay, I know where I'm looking. I'm looking right here. We're not quite there yet. This is a little iffy. Right, I'm glad to see it. Right, I'm a bull, so I'm glad to see this kind of price action. But this is not quite good enough yet for me to go, yeah, I like it. I like it. If it finishes up here, then I would say it's tradable. Until that time, I think you're in a hurry up and wait here. This is what I'd be hoping for, that we get this and then the opportunity to be a buyer down here. That's me. That's what I'd be waiting for. Right, on the assumption that this has still got the 5th, so if I pull all the way back out to the 4 hour, let's put that all back together. All right, so we're just trying to get the 1 wave started to get up to that 3. So this is the 5 I'm trying to get started here. So I need that 1, 2, so I can go up for the, here's a reasonable target. Now that would be the 1618. We may need more of a kick here because if we only go here and then we do a typical and we do something like that, well, we got a long way to go. Then we're thinking more like this. Right, so maybe we're pushing higher. Right now, we got to let that shape because this is all still a little shaky before I would pursue a trade here. But if I get that 5, I'm no hesitation buying into that based on all of the history here and where it would appear that we are in this count at this degree, right, which is still seeking the 5th of the 3rd, right, still seeking that median line. Still hanging on to that 80% probability. So that's what I see here, guys. I think that's absolutely tradable, but let's be patient. Wait for it. Don't force anything. There's no need to. All right, guys, that'll do it for, I went 26 minutes. Okay, I'll be back. I've got 1 or 2 more to do. Okay.